Hey, this is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Ariels podcast, now with the Digit Network. Thanks so much for tuning in. I cannot believe this, but this is season 5. So thanks to you. This is a thriving podcast, reaching the corners of the world, all the women out there, and I'm so excited and proud to be with you. If you haven't listened to the Artist Entrepreneur podcast, my new podcast with Noah Dock and Amanda Ritchie, please check it out. It's going to be on this feed on Thursdays. We're 3 artists navigating our businesses. We have so much fun. Please check it out. It'll be in your inbox on Thursdays. And just announced September 26th to the 28th, I'll be at NECA, the New England Center for Circus Arts, for an 11-hour weekend silks immersion. So it's a retreat-esque without being a full retreat. And I'd love to see you there. It's picturesque Vermont. And I have just a handful of spots left for June 21st through 28th with sweet retreats in Oaxaca, Mexico. Roll it out every Sunday and Thursday. I have some different times to accommodate my Pacific people and my East Coast people. My flagship course, Beginner to Intermediate Aerial Silks, online for anybody in the world. And of course, Aero Rehab, which is meant to be the bridge between PT and your favorite aero class. I'm teaching all over the place this year. Austin, Oaxaca, Ohio, and DC this summer. And of course, NECA in the fall. Let's get started. Well, hello.
Hello, Carrie. How are you doing?
I'm good. Belle, is that how you say your name? Just the way it's read?
Yeah, Belle. Just how it's spread. Yeah, Belle is easy. It's like the easy version of my name.
What is the full name? What is your full name?
So my full name is Maria Belén. So Maria is easy, but Belén is Spanish for Bethlehem. See, that's a very common name in Argentina, where I'm from, but not really in other parts of Latin American countries. It's not a common name anywhere else.
Oh my God. Okay, I was going to ask you where you're from. And so were you born there and you've lived here for a while?
No, I've always lived in Argentina, and I'm here in the US first because I'm working with a doctor in Miami. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is I'm going to Miami in a couple of weeks because we are working with the University of Miami to publish some research on vaginal gymnastics. So that's the reason why I know, I'm so excited. I'm such a dork.
Okay, no, I have a million questions. I have a million questions. Okay, if you would introduce yourself, number 1, number 2, what you do, and number 3, what is. So I have my kid with me, so I'll be spelling things. Vaginal gymnastics. So I need you to explain that right off the top because I have
Okay, so my name is Lorenzo. I'm the founder and CEO of Gohddess.com, which is basically a program on the art of vaginal gymnastics. We teach women all over the world how to train their pelvic floor muscles to enhance their experience during sex. And so basically, there's a lot of science behind this and how it improves female libido, female arousal, female pleasure, female climax, and all of these beautiful things. And of course, their partners are definitely not complaining about it either. So there's just a lot of benefits to this practice. And we basically have a structured way of training, much like you would train any other muscle in your body. And we teach them how to have this dexterity over their muscles and over the different walls and different levels of depth and the right wall and the left wall, and how to create dozens of unique exercises such as squeezing, milking, locking, twisting, ringing, whipping, etc., etc.
Yeah, I looked at your website right like before this to like prep. I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. Like I had no idea about any of this. I'm so curious. Okay, so Belle, what did you study and what made you get into this niche? Because it's very niche, obviously. One second.
Very, very niche.
There's a Disney princess called Belle.
There is a Disney princess called Belle.
Yeah. Yes, she's my favorite princess.
That's her favorite. So you're in my headset. She can't really hear you, but you're gonna be able to hear her every time you talk.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. What made you get into this?
So what made me get into this was I didn't study anything related to this specifically. I've always been obsessed, though, with fitness. And so what happened was during the pandemic, I just started dating someone and we were stuck in the studio apartment. So it should have been sex fest, right? It should have been fantastic. But we had fallen into this predictable pattern and sex was just not happening. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. And we're stuck in this apartment. There's nothing else to do. We just need to, like, we're just going to work all day and then not have sex. This is terrible. And so basically I started reading about I'm a fixer, right? So I was like, okay, how can I fix this? What can I do? And so I started reading about, different sex practices around the world. And one thing kept coming up, which was called pompoir, magical vaginas, and women throughout history, Cleopatra, Wallis Simpson, Jeanne de Poitiers, all of these famous seductresses throughout history that were able to control their vaginas to give immense levels of pleasure. And that was as much as we had about it. We there was no article explaining exactly how this was done. It was just articles and historians and authors talking about different women throughout time who were able to do this, but nobody actually teaching you how. And I was like, this is what I want to learn, but nobody will tell me how. So because it was the pandemic, I couldn't go to a gym. So I was learning a lot about body weight training and muscle building and how I could do it from home. So I was like, well, wait a minute. The muscles that surround the vagina aren't that different to all the other muscles. Like the pelvic floor is just a string of muscles, right? So what if I apply everything that I'm learning about how to train my other muscles to the pelvic floor and see if I can create all of these different moves that that historians talk about? What if I can learn how to twist someone only using my pelvic floor muscles? What if I can create all of these moves? So what happened was I started training. I started basically designing a program, a progressive overload program, much like you would have for your glutes and your legs and your back and your delts and whatever, and applied it to the pelvic floor muscles. And I started working with pelvic floor physicians and I started working with doctors. And so the idea was, how can I put this together? And yeah, I started training. My boyfriend was enlisted as a very, very eager research assistant. He likes to call himself
same boyfriend in the small studio apartment.
Same boyfriend. And suddenly, as the weeks went on and I started mastering the exercises, our sex life completely changed. Not just for him, he loved it, obviously. But for me, I was like, what is going on? I was starting to orgasm much more frequently, especially through like vaginal stimulation, which usually women generally we gravitate towards clitoral stimulation that much more, but suddenly like vaginal stimulation was much more intense. The cervix started feeling a lot better, whereas before it would hurt. It wasn't really that comfortable. Like everything about sex became way more enhanced, and our libidos went through the roof. Especially mine. It was insane. I felt like a teenage boy who just discovered porn for the first time. I was like all the time ready. It was crazy, and so all of these changes started happening. All of these crazy things started happening. And I was like, how is nobody teaching us this? What's going on? I'm orgasming much more frequently, much faster, multiple times. I'm much more, my libido's off the roof. I really want to have sex all the time. Like, what is happening right now? Why is this not being taught? And my boyfriend was the one who said, no, like, you're young, you're healthy, but imagine how this would affect, I don't know, women who have been in a relationship for years and maybe the spark has gone out of their marriage, or women who have just given birth and maybe they don't feel things as much, or maybe women who are menopausal. And like, it was actually his idea. He was like, you need to teach this stuff. But I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't identify with that. I was just a worker. I was a marketer. Like, it didn't have anything to do with what I did. And I was like, how could I even teach this? I don't know. And so I said, well, let's see if I can just start coaching it for free online. Because when I was doing the research for this, there were a lot of women asking in different forms about, women from history who supposedly were able to do these moves. A lot of people were asking, hey, can someone give me a guide on this? Can someone actually teach me this stuff? So I went back to those forums and I said, hey guys, I think I devised a program and I'm doing all of these crazy moves. I'm learning squeezing and milking and twisting. So someone who wants me to coach them, I'll just do it for free. Like I'm a nobody. So I basically told them, hey, I'm free for this. And one woman responded. She was a graphic designer from the US, from Florida, from New York, sorry. And she had a boyfriend from Florida. So they were in kind of a long distance relationship. So she said, how about you teach me this stuff? I can learn when we're away and then I can try it on him when we're together. And so that's what started happening. I started coaching her through Zoom lessons, much like this. And her relationship was completely transformed because sex was a big problem for them. She up to that point, she had never experienced an orgasm before.
Wow.
And now it was insane, really, really intense. And then they got married and it was beautiful. And that was like our first sort of like case study. And she obviously started telling her friends about it. So then her friends started telling their family members, and the practice continued to grow. And so that's, I had a full-time job at the time. So I hired a friend. I taught her everything I knew. And my best friend, she's our COO right now. She basically took it to the next level, and she started recruiting women from all parts of the world. She started teaching them step by step this program. And eventually we realized that every time we brought like a visual aid, like an image, they would understand the moves that much quicker because these are all moves that are happening inside of you. So you can't really see the muscle at work. You can obviously feel it happening, but when we brought up visual, they would understand things that much quicker. So what you're doing is you're pressing here with the front wall, but at the top you're sucking. So you're doing this and this and this and this. And they were like, okay, this makes way more sense with the visual aid. So then I realized, okay, what if we do a self-guided online course that they can see and they can follow at their own.
Yeah. Genius.
So that's when I love designing. I am a content marketer by trade. And so I love designing and I love animations and all of this stuff and infographics. So I said, well, what if I just design a bunch of colorful vaginas to explain the different moves? And I had my other best friend animate them all into a course because he's an animator. So I always like to say he's the gayest man with the most amount of pictures of vaginas in his room because he animated the whole thing. And Pedro, he's amazing. He animated the whole thing. We even did, this is crazy, but like we even did a Guitar Hero game where like women can match the different exercises to the different beats of the songs that they're following through
amazing.
the workouts. It's amazing. It's crazy. And so that's when things kind of exploded because the course was like this super discreet thing because, I wanted it to be the kind of course that if your little kid walks in as you're training, they're not scarred for life. It just looks like different colorful things that are moving. It doesn't look pornographic in the slightest because I wanted to be able to teach my mom this stuff and she would never look at something that looked intimidating, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of how it all came down. We just started coaching women who told other women. And then I wrote a post on Reddit about it. It went viral. I made a YouTube video about it. It went viral. I did a TikTok. It went viral. Like it seemed like there was a real need for this stuff and nobody was teaching us this. So that's kind of how it all came about. And we've been coaching women for 4+ years now. And and it's been wonderful. And at the beginning of last year in 2024, I released a book, which became a bestseller in the US, which is great. And that's when I started getting a bunch of emails from women all over the world who are using this practice, women who are in their 80s using this. And so it's just been wonderful. It's been really great.
Okay. I'm starting to understand how you teach this. Okay. Mm-hmm. So going back to your research, what did you research? What did you learn from that? And then what did that point you to when it comes to teaching the technique? Like, I just kind of want to understand it from, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a Pilates trainer, all this stuff. Like, it's starting to make sense that you are cueing the muscles in the pelvic floor very, very similarly to how you would cue muscles for other exercise. Mm-hmm. So what did you learn in this research that allowed you to know that you need to use the anterior wall, the posterior wall, posterior wall? Like, what did you learn and how did you create that into an exercise? Because it's not like you had a roadmap, right?
So the way that I was learning it, exactly. So the way that I was learning it was basically, I wanted to apply what I was learning from muscle training for my legs, for example, and apply it all to the pelvic floor. So for example, concepts like regional hypertrophy, concepts like range of motion, concepts like different fitness components like endurance, speed, power, agility, being able to switch between an exercise and another, progressive overload, etc. All of these things, I basically applied them to the pelvic floor. So the biggest thing to understand about this is that the pelvic floor muscles or the muscles that surround the vagina are not different at all from all the other muscles. So you have different muscular regions, you have fast twitch fibers and slow twitch fibers. You have everything is kind of the same. So you can train in the same way. So the way that I explain it is with 3 planes of motion. So we have the transverse plane of motion, and we talk about vertical levels up. So sort of like a vertical axis in the vagina. If you were to insert like a straw in the middle of the vagina, we have the entrance of the vagina, we have the middle where the G-spot is, and we have the top near the cervix. So there are moves that you can isolate only at the entrance, only at the middle, and only at the top. But wait, then we have what we call the frontal plane. So dividing the vagina into front and back. And if you have movements across the frontal plane, you're moving the left wall and the right wall. So you can move in isolation all the right side of the vagina and the left side, just like you have a right pec and a left pec, or a right glute and a left glute, the same thing happens. But you can combine these first two planes of motion and only move the right side at the entrance, only move the left side at the middle, only move the right side at the top. And then we have the sagittal plane of motion. So we can divide the vagina between left and right and move across the sagittal plane, as in the front and back walls, or the anterior and posterior chain. So, and again, you can move the front wall only at the middle, the back wall only at the top, et cetera, et cetera. So with all of these regions, we talk about 12 vaginal regions. You can move each of them in isolation, and the different exercises will target each of these regions in isolation. And that's the concept of regional hypertrophy. Some exercises will be better at targeting some parts of the muscle than others.
Okay, so I'm a dancer first. I don't know if you ever danced.
Yeah. I'm terrible at it.
Personal training is kind of in that thing. We learned very early on how to isolate different body parts, like only move the rib cage, only move the hips. And it actually is quite hard to teach an adult how to do that who's never done that before. Like just your hips. Really hard. They want to move their whole body. So I'm assuming a lot of these women you're talking to don't necessarily have a personal training background. They have not necessarily done any of what you're talking about with any other part of their body.
No.
So how do you get them to do that? Like, and how long does it take them?
We start very, very slow. So we have very different, we have like a group of women who generally, those are the women who are more in the niche, and maybe they've done Kegels, or they've done like yoni training, or even they've done yoga, and some concept of yoga will activate the vagina as well. So like we will have women who are a little bit more knowledgeable about this area, but then we have women who like never in their life have done a Kegel before, and that's most of the women have never done it. So we start from a very, very basic standpoint, which is generally Kegel or contraction, what I call contractions training, only transverse plane. So what we do is we basically explain, first of all, how to do a Kegel properly, because that is the most basic form of this training. It's the first step into all of this vaginal wizardry. So the first thing that you want to do is learn how to do a Kegel properly, because most women don't do them properly. So we teach them how to, inhale, and as they exhale, they lift with their pelvic floor muscles, and then they relax as if they were sucking from a straw. And then we start giving them variations. Once they're able to do that, we're like, okay, great. Let's move on. Let's unlock the next skill. Let's see if you can hold a Kegel for a longer time. Let's see if you can hold a contraction for a little longer. And we give them some cues, obviously, and we try them, for those of them who are comfortable, we try for them to use their fingers inside of them so that they can properly assess their endurance. There are also tools that you can use, like biofeedback device as well, if you want to, but your fingers are generally your two best friends when it comes to vaginal gymnastics. So see for how long you can hold a contraction for. Then we talk about speedy contractions or rhythmic contractions. We talk about eccentric contractions, slowly on the negative. So we give them very basic variations of the simple Kegel or the standard Kegel. Then we want to move a step further, and we want to talk about the horizontal walls. And again, your fingers are generally your best friends when it comes to this, because you will actually feel one side of your vagina pressing inward and the other side relaxed, or the other side of your vagina pressing inward and the other side relaxed. So that's kind of how you start understanding the movements. And also, as you get stronger with your pelvic floor muscles, you get a better feel for what that essentially feels like inside of you. So like the stronger your muscles are, the more you're actually going to be able to isolate these regions, and the more you're going to actually feel it at work without even using your fingers. So like, how people have really developed pec muscles and they can make them dance and bounce up and down.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. You feel things a lot more inside of you once you have that strength. So I always, even at the highest levels of this, the women who have mastered like twisting and ringing and really crazy skills, those women are still training their they're isometric contractions, they're eccentric contractions, they're basic contractions, because these are the moves that are going to make you stronger the fastest. And you always want to keep them in your arsenal just so you can keep up with your strength and then add the dexterity of the other moves. So we basically take it step by step. We first start with the transverse plane that has more to do with Kegels, and perhaps they have some experience with Kegels. Then we move on to the frontal plane and the side-to-side isolations. Then we move on to the sagittal plane. Then we move on to multiplanar training. So we never start, I'm not going to ask you to twist from the get-go. It's always going to start from a very, very simple and accessible place for most people.
This sounds like it might actually heal some postpartum problems as well, right? Like incontinence.
Yeah. Prolapse,
painful
incontinence,
sex.
lack of sensation.
Is that kind of like the side benefit of all of this? Because the focus is the pleasure of it for your course. But
Correct.
I'm sure that those things happen because a lot of the PT that people receive with those issues sounds exactly what you're doing.
Exactly. It's exactly
Okay.
right. So while our focus is pleasure, by default, you're going to be fixing any problems about urinary incontinence, organ prolapse, lack of sensation in your vagina. All of that stuff is already going to happen just even at the most basic levels of this, which are the Kegels or the contractions. That's just going to happen just really quickly. It's just that my program is probably overkill if that's all you want to do, because you can do it in the most basic forms of it. But yes, absolutely. We have a lot of women who come to us postpartum. I have even worked with doctors in the rehabilitation as they're going through that. So we generally recommend that for the first 6 weeks postpartum, you just focus on just healing your body, not doing these exercises because they are a workout. They're an actual workout. And maybe you can do some pelvic tilts, and maybe you can focus on diaphragmatic breathing, and that's great. But I would say start with these actual workouts after 6 weeks postpartum. But yes, absolutely. It's by default, you're going to be fixing all of those issues as well.
Okay, yeah. And so for normal women who are not postpartum, a lot of those muscles are deconditioned, right? Because they're not focused on them at all. They've never been strengthened. They've never been stretched. For postpartum women, maybe stretch too much.
Yes.
Maybe hypertonic as well. So, okay, yeah. So I want to go into the postpartum stuff really quick, and then I want to jump into your like gold medal like land with your, because that's where I'm like, how did you come up with like all of these milking and twisting, blah, 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 all these things. So first, postpartum, I am 5 years postpartum with mine. And it's just like, it's kind of the landscape has changed, kind of. I didn't even have a vaginal birth. It just feels like my body changed. And how do you help women maybe get their libido back, maybe kind of in a gentler way get to the place where sex is not painful anymore? Do you deal with all this stuff? What are your any stories associated with those things?
Yeah, we deal with that stuff a lot. That's one of the main reasons why people come to us. After childbirth, they don't feel things as intensely, or the organ problems, urinary incontinence, all of these things, are making it so that sex maybe isn't even on the radar yet after postpartum. So that's a huge thing for us. So we generally, basically, the training is the same for everyone. We just allow people to stay with the pillar. We talk about our training in terms of pillars. We just allow them to stay in whatever pillar feels comfortable until they're ready to move on to the next. Because for things postpartum, really, the initial pillar of this training is going to be sufficient to work on issues such as prolapse, incontinence, lack of sensation, general lack of sensation. All of that stuff will probably be great from the get-go. And when it comes to the opposite effect, so when we're talking about a hypertonic pelvic floor or carrying a lot of tension in the pelvic floor, which can also happen, or painful sex, that is also covered from the get-go, because we have an approach where rest and flexibility and stretching is almost as, if not more important than the strengthening part. So that's something that is very, very crucial to me. And that was something that I really stress when it comes to this training. These are actual workouts, and your muscles grow at rest, not when you're actually training them. So the two parts are important. If you're training them and you're breaking down the muscle fibers for a couple of, for 20 to 30 minutes every day. I want you to be resting for the rest of the day. And I want you to be resting on the weekends. And I want you to be resting for an entire week every single month. But also I want you to be stretching after each practice, because I want your pelvic floor not only to be strong, but to be very flexible, because there's something that happens that's called vaginal tenting, which is when the uterus shifts back and allows for more space when it comes to penetration. With women who don't have really flexible and strong pelvic floors, that is harder. So once I'm teaching you how to have a strong pelvic floor that is also flexible, it allows for this extra space to exist for penetration to occur and to feel pleasurable. So if you're not being properly aroused or lubricated, and you don't have a pelvic floor muscle that allows for vaginal tenting to occur, sex is going to be painful. It's just that's what's going to happen. So that's why we focus a lot on flexibility as well, and exercises that go through the full range of motion of the vagina. So you're not, you don't have any imbalance and like a really strong entrance and a really loose, maybe top half of the vagina. So that's something that's really crucial. Another thing that we do is we focus a lot on our breathing. So breathing is, it's important for all types of training, but especially vaginal training, because you don't want to carry a lot of stress and you don't ever want to have a problem when it comes to your pelvic floor muscles, because that can make everything really painful. So we focus a lot on matching our breathing with the thoracic diaphragm breathing with the pelvic floor diaphragm. So the pelvic floor is a diaphragm matched like your thoracic diaphragm, and it should move in unison with your thoracic diaphragm. So that's something that we focus on a lot. So we don't put too much pressure on the core, therefore creating more stress on the pelvic floor. So all of these things that sound a little bit boring and a little bit scientific and whatnot, they're all just part of the training. So we make it really fun and really accessible. And it's something that the women who train with us know that we really care about that stuff. So they're always doing it using quote unquote proper form, what we would call proper form. So painful penetration is something that we basically erase by allowing your vagina to first be properly lubricated. This type of training and these exercises tend to lubricate you a lot. In fact, one of the things that happens the most is that women will have to stop the practice midway to like either touch themselves or have a cold shower, because they get just really, really aroused as they're doing the exercises on their own in their bedroom. So that's something that's very common for the practice. And a lot of these exercises will be rubbing against your G-spot a lot in a lot of your erogenous regions. So you're going to get wetter, you're going to get aroused. And that's something that's also really important. And so basically, because we're improving the circulation throughout the genital region, sex is going to feel much more pleasurable. You're going to be much more lubricated, much more aroused, and vaginal tenting is going to occur so that basically your vagina gets quote unquote elongated for the penis to enter, or whatever you're using to enter.
I have not ever heard about this tenting. Has this been like a term like a long time, or did you make this term up?
No, I did not make it. I did not make it up. It's a huge thing, but we just don't talk about it. It's I Yeah. That's something that I came up with when I was researching this stuff. But if you actually look up vaginal tenting, I think on Google Images, we appear because we're the only ones who did like an infographic for it. So it was a weird
amazing.
We started ranking for that word, and I was like, I just mentioned it in a blog, but because nobody had done an infographic on that, because I don't know, because we don't care about women's health, I guess. Started
a lot of people don't.
Oh my God. It was, it was crazy. So that's a common thing that happens. I had no idea. The uterus shifts to allow for sex to feel good. It's freaking incredible. So our bodies
are incredible. Yeah, our bodies are incredible, and we don't realize it until it just starts doing stuff on its own. But like, okay, I am completely amazed by that. I've been doing this podcast for years and years, and like I'm still just floored, because I'll be like, I've never heard of that before. So, okay, I got to gather my mind, because she's talking to me and I'm blown away by this idea. So you said relaxation, which I went through pelvic floor PT after I had my baby, after I had my kid. Mm-hmm. And the doctor, felt around and she's like, well, your contraction is good, but you have no relax. There's no second tier. There's no relax. So I worked so much on that. So I started to understand in my own body how important the relax was. But then when you say stretch, are you talking about using tools? Are you talking about using your fingers? Like, what does the stretch mean for the course?
Stretching is simply adopting positions, generally yogi positions. So if you do yoga, you're very familiar with this. But yogi positions to stretch the pelvic floor muscles. So some pelvic floor stretches might include like the frog's pose, or like the happy baby pose, or child's pose.
Okay.
You're simply at the end of each practice, you're making sure that your muscles are relaxed. You're letting go of every single contraction, and you're stretching out your pelvic floor to finish your training for the day. It's just important because as humans, we just carry a lot of tension on our pelvic floor. You know how some people will carry a lot of tension in their jaws? Well, a lot of people will carry a lot of tension on their pelvic floors. And there's nothing more painful than your pelvic floor being locked up. It's super, super painful. So we want to avoid that at all costs. Because when you start training, if you've come from never training this body and never even knowing that it exists, or, you can really quickly just gather a lot of tension there. Once you start training frequently, that problem kind of goes away on its own. But we always want to make sure that we stretch properly, especially when you're first starting out.
So it's not necessarily the vaginal canal that you're talking about stretching. You're just talking about the entire muscle group.
Yeah, the entire muscle group surrounding the vaginal canal. The vaginal canal really is just the vessel that's surrounded by the muscles that we're working on. So the muscles that we're working on will basically influence what the canal feels just by being surrounded, just by surrounding it. And when they're,
Okay, Belle. Now, I'm probably in that rung of your people that I'm like super aware, blah blah blah, all this stuff. So I have not taken your course, but if I was like ready for like the most advanced stuff, what is it? Like, what is it? And please, I'm so curious.
Let me tell you like what the white whale is of Pompoir, the holy grail of Pompoir or vaginal gymnastics is. There's a move that we love and we talk about it a lot. It's like, our great big white whale it's called ringing.
Okay.
Ringing essentially means being able to twist the top of your vagina to one side and twist the bottom of your vagina to the other side.
What?
So, yes. So essentially, you have no idea how this feels when you're on top. It's insane. This takes months. I wanna preface this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It takes months to master, but it is absolutely achievable. It is crazy stuff. It is crazy stuff because what you're doing there is not only are you dividing the vaginal canal into two parts, and so moving the top in isolation with the bottom, but you're also basically recruiting all the muscle fibers. So the front, the back, the front, the back, the side, and even creating some direction to your muscles. So it's the last step before you're elated into a goddess of the universe, because it is.
I love it.
It is crazy, crazy stuff. You can start with whatever, because once you get access to the course, which I'll just give you access when we finish this call, but once you get access to the course, we have Pompoir Fundamentals or Vaginal Gymnastics Fundamentals, Pompoir Advanced. Pompoir is the historical term for this type of practice. Pompoir Advanced and some other exercises and types of training. And so you have access to everything, and you can start wherever you want. I always recommend you start from the beginning, because you can really quickly just design your week of workouts however you prefer.
It's progression. It's a progression. Like you have the knowledge from the week before to get you into the next exercise.
Correct. And also, like, even as I was saying before, even when you're training like the really hard stuff, I still want you to be training the fundamentals. It's like if you're a pianist and you are practicing just incredible, pieces, you also still want to be doing simple.
Yeah, your scales.
Your scale. You want to be practicing your scales. You want to be practicing your course. You still do that, because the foundations of every type of training are going to give you they're going to keep you sane, and they're going to keep you doing on the right track. So essentially, that's what I would say is like the coolest kind of trick. But there's many cool tricks along the way that are quite easy to learn. So like whipping, for example, which is essentially in a really fast manner, closing the entrance, the middle, and the top horizontally. So you go like this. Yes. So it's this wave-like motion that your partner and you feel, and it's just insane. But it's actually not that hard to master. That's one of the, I would say that maybe if you are a complete beginner and you've never done a single Kegel before, in 2 months, you can get that exercise.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
I just feel like as a movement practitioner that I am, it's just like isolating muscles is not actually that easy for regular people. And so the fact that it's a muscle that you cannot see because it's on the inside, like when I'm in my classes and I tell, I'm doing a squat, I'm like, make sure your glute is on, make sure, pelvic thrust, make sure this is on. They can touch it.
Yes. Correct.
To confirm.
Correct.
And you have these whatever, the things that you can buy on him. Yeah, biofeedback. But generally it is a muscle that you can only feel. It's not something that you can see or touch. So do you have any struggles with that with your students? Like, do they find it challenging because of that?
We've been teaching this for hundreds of thousands of women, and that is not really the stuff that comes up often for us. Oh, okay. It's strange. I don't know if it's the way that I want to say that while the downside of the vagina, of the pelvic floor muscles is that you don't see them, the upside is that you can feel them. So like flexing your bicep, probably you don't feel that much, but because you are doing it because these muscles are around your vagina, you are feeling everything that's happening because it's stimulating your vagina. So it's almost like if you had a bicep, but you also had, something in between your bicep and something else, like you would feel it manipulating whatever's inside, if that makes sense. These muscles are inside of you, but they're manipulating a canal that where you happen to have a lot of sensations. So everything that's being done to you, that you're doing, you're feeling. So for example, there are moves that will stimulate your G-spot a lot. For example, moving the front wall to your center, or pressing back from your front wall, is basically you're essentially touching, as if it were a barn, your G-spot back and forth, and you will feel it, and you will be like, you'll start getting aroused, you'll start liking it, you'll start really feeling the pleasure. So it's hard to visualize because you don't see them, which is already solved by the fact that both the book and the course are all animated and have a lot of, the book is obviously not animated, but has a lot of images. So it's all very, very visual. But it is aided by the fact that it's your vagina feeling everything that's happening. So that makes it quite intuitive in many ways. And yes, there are, of course, there are walls that are harder to activate than the others. Like the back wall, the posterior chain seems to be the weakest for most people. But then the front wall seems to be quite intuitive. So it really depends on a lot of things. But generally, isolation is not the hardest problem at all, because you're feeling it. You're feeling what's happening. And if you want some extra aid, you use your fingers to sort of feel that happening and manipulating your fingers with your different vaginal walls. But yeah.
Okay, so if there is one, what is the biggest challenge for people?
Oh, the biggest challenge by far, I would say, is going from a standard Kegel to a squeeze. So, for example, a lot of people use those terms interchangeably. We don't. We use contracting or pulling or lifting as a different term than squeezing or pressing. So, for example, when I talk about contracting, I talk about lifting with your pelvic floor muscles. So you're pulling up, whether you're pulling up with all your muscles, you're pulling up only with the front, only with the side, doesn't matter. But a Kegel is just a contraction. You pull up, you lift your muscles, and then they relax. A squeeze is pressing your muscles together. So what you're doing is essentially you're flexing your muscles. It's almost like an isometric contraction. You're not moving it. So what's happening is you're closing your vagina with your lateral walls. So whereas a Kegel would be shortening the vaginal canal because you're lifting up and you're making your canal shorter, a squeeze is narrowing the vaginal canal, so making it narrower and closing it from your sides. That initial transition is quite hard for people to kind of grasp, because they're like, but I feel like I still pull. I'm pulling. I don't know what's like the movement of squeezing or pressing is quite hard for people to grasp at first, but it's kind of the eureka moment of Pompoir, because once you understand squeezing, every single other exercise is unlocked to you. So I would say that is the main hurdle. But once you kind of get that, and then they start feeling like completely different moves, and you're like, how did I even confuse these two? Because they're completely different. Once you get that first initial hurdle, which will be maybe in week 2 of training, you're like, oh, I don't understand. It's squeezing, contracting. I don't understand the difference. I don't understand. Am I pushing? Am I doing this? That is the biggest hurdle. Once you get that, and maybe it can take you a couple more weeks. Once you get that, everything else just it's exponential training. Like everything else, your progress becomes much more exponential, because that unlocks being able to squeeze and contract and realize how these moves are different. It unlocks absolutely everything for people. So that's usually the biggest problem, and it comes quite fast in training, because I get you squeezing really fast in the training.
So I'm imagining it might be very difficult to do this training and then be a single person. and not have access to like a
It's
human.
it's sexual.
with some,
It's very frustrating.
yeah, because you're basically like working those muscles and you're getting everything warm. And I'm sure you want to just have sex all the time. So if you have a partner who's just like a willing participant, I'm imagining myself doing this in my 20s when I was completely single. That would be like, I mean, do people use tools?
So it's what I love about this is that people have turned this practice into whatever they want. Is crazy. But this actual question I asked it on the group, like it was like, I want to say 3 months ago, because I am single right now. And so that was a big thing. How do I continue being motivated to train? Because I have a very specific motivation, which is I need to keep teaching people this. But
Yes.
why are people continuing to train? And so I started writing about my own journey, my own reasons for training as I'm single. And one of them is it makes masturbation really good. It makes everything related to sex really good. So that's
because you know what you're doing, basically.
Everything feels really enhanced. So, you know how in sex sometimes that initial, things are getting really hot and really intense, and that initial sort of thrust feels like heaven, feels really heavenly. It's like, oh my God, yes, that's the first sort of like gasp and that really, really intense feeling. Well, this makes it so that every single thrust or every single touch feels kind of that way. It doesn't, that feeling doesn't go down. If anything, it just continues going up. And even if you're getting wetter, even if you're getting more aroused, like everything just feels really, really intense. So touching yourself feels really intense. But also a lot of the women that we coach talk about how good it feels to have a really high libido. And that's something that it resonates a lot with me. I am someone with a very strong libido, and after starting training, it's just off the charts. But a really strong libido kind of makes it so that something that keeps coming up in the group is that when I train while I'm single, I just become really magnetic. It's almost like you walk around differently and you flirt with everyone, and you just become this ball of charisma, and everyone seems attractive, and everyone is attracted to you. And it's almost like these pheromones that are going on, and it's like people can smell it almost. And you walk around with this secret, and you're like, oh, people don't know that I have a magic vagina. And it's just this crazy thing.
I love this.
It's this crazy thing that makes you feel really feminine.
Yeah, it's like the vibration is different.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a spiritual person. I'm very much a troglodyte. But when it comes to this stuff, I'm like, it feels different. It feels like you're vibrating at a different, at a different level, a different sensitivity. It's really strange. But it's almost like people know that there's something about you. So it's really, really interesting when that happens when you're single. And the other thing is a lot of the people that we train, they like fitness overall, and you kind of have to like it a little bit because these are
same
workouts.
Concepts. Yeah.
And these are workouts. You got to like get up and do your 20 minutes of training. Like you have to have that discipline. So if you're someone who already enjoys fitness, this is probably second nature to you. You know what it is like to be working out. And so a lot of these women, they're like, this is just another part of my body. And if you have strong and flexible muscles, you have better posture, better stability. The pelvic floor is a reactive muscle. So like when something, if you hear something and you want to turn around, your pelvic floor is helping you stabilize and not fall down. Or when you need to we can start running, your pelvic floor is helping you not fall down as you start running, as you start sprinting. So just training their pelvic floors to them is also just helping them basically with other exercises. So for example, my squat PR has improved massively since I've been doing this training because I now have muscles to support me while I do these other exercises. So there are many, many reasons to train. I particularly really enjoy the feeling of you just vibrate a different symphony and you feel really connected with your femininity, which is something that I struggled with for a lot of my life because I'm someone who's very assertive and very testosterone driven and very like ambitious and very in my quote unquote masculine energy, I guess. I always had male friends more than female friends. That was a big thing. And now I'm like, oh, this is, training the most female part about you, I guess, has this sort of potential to make you feel really womanly and really in touch with that side of you. And that's something that a lot of our students say because a lot of our students are like CEOs and really driven and really assertive women. And so there's something that they really like as well. And a lot of them, they're like, look, I'm single now, but I'm not going to be single for long. And if I really want to already have this figured out when sex starts happening again and I want to blow someone's mind. So that's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd, and I think it's a societal thing. But nowadays, like, people talk about perimenopause and they talk about menopause, and honestly, even for me, who is like a very athletic person, the pelvic floor gets very much ignored
Completely.
in a lot of my workouts.
Completely.
In most of my workouts, like I only started cueing in my Pilates when I have Pilates clients. I cue the pelvic floor exercises after I had my baby because I realized that I only learned about that when I was pregnant. Like, why are we only dealing with that muscle
Yes.
for postpartum and prenatal?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's part of our body. It's
Yes, ma'am.
just as. So I just feel like, yeah, I love that you're cracking this open for society. I'm right there with it. If you would remind us or tell the audience exactly what this business is. So you said that you have a book, you're going to Miami. Like, tell us what is happening. I want to know all of it. I want to follow all of it.
Well, everything is happening. So if you go to our site, gohddess.com, Gohddess, so it's just goddess with an H after the O, which is the O of orgasm. So we basically have everything there. We have coaching, we have the program, which is our flagship course that has everything and all the animations and all the lessons. And we have the book that you get access to on Amazon, right? So what I'm focused on now, and we have a lot of free resources as well. If you want to learn more about this before figuring out if it's for you, I write a lot of blog posts. I have a lot of stuff on TikTok, on Reddit, on YouTube. I love this stuff. I'm a nerd for vaginas. So you can just look up stuff because I just like talking about it. And so something that I am really, 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 really interested in doing, and this is something that we're working on now, is getting some research published on this, because all the research that we have that is overwhelmingly positive, by the way, so it's just even more of a question mark as to why we're not teaching this to everyone. Every single research that's been published on pelvic floor training, on interventional studies on pelvic floor training, every single research shows that at least one component of female sexuality gets improved after pelvic floor training is introduced. At least one, with most of the studies showing that every single metric gets improved.
Right. Okay.
So the research is overwhelmingly positive, but it's mostly done on very standard, very basic forms of Kegel training. Contract, relax, hold for a few seconds, relax slowly. Basic stuff. That's step one of our program, if you will. We take this to the completely different level, right? And we teach you how to move everything in isolation and dexterity and all of these fitness components. But there is no research on this. So I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to publish research specifically on vaginal gymnastics, on how to learn and how to master all of these different regions of the muscle, and see how this improves female sexuality scores, female, their confidence, their how they walk through life, how they feel about themselves, their happiness, their relationship satisfaction, all of these different metrics. And so that's what's in the works now, because I want this to be a standard practice. I want this to be just a gym for your vagina and something that we all do to enhance our life. And so for that to happen, I feel like having science on our side is the best path forward, at least for me. And I'm a nerd and I like academics. So that's kind of the part that I want to focus on this year. And the other thing that I'm doing this year is I'm basically traveling the world to meet up with the different students of the course, of the program, and basically share their stories. That's kind of what the other part of this year is about. We have women from all walks of life. We have a woman in Zanzibar with an amazing story. We have a woman from Georgia who's 86 in a nursing home, and she's just wreaking havoc and just having sex with all of these men, and like it's insane.
Wait, how old?
She's like 86. Yeah, it's insane.
Oh my God, she's wreaking havoc in the nursing home.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. She's my spirit animal. And she just comes back to me. It's like, no, I was twisting this man and he loved it. I was like, you are amazing. You're just amazing. You're the grandma I always wanted. And so, sorry, grandma, I love you. And yeah, it's insane. We have insane stories. And so that's kind of what I want to showcase in this trip, basically. Showcase the stories of women around the world doing this stuff and making it their own, which is really great. So yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to have met you.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Blowing my mind. Oh my God.
Well, here's what I'll do. When we finish this call, I'll just send you an email with everything. I'll send you the course so you can.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yes, and you can update us. You can tell us how is it going, what your favorite exercise is, because I'm really excited to see which one you like the most. I have some theories, but I want to see.
Well, also in what I do for a living, because I'm an aerialist, obviously. It's just so important for us to be able to control a pelvic floor in concert with our movement, with our arms and legs.
I wonder how that's going to change everything. That.
Yeah. So, I mean, postpartum, it was such a problem of getting the participation of my pelvic floor to come back with a straddle up, which is like, you're supporting yourself with your hands, and then you're doing this inversion and you're supporting all your weight in your hands, and your pelvic floor has to basically be the engine for the movement. And yeah, I'm really curious. So maybe we'll do a touch on, we'll touch on it again.
Love that. I would love that. Oh, and you have this entire perspective that you can apply to it. I really want to know how it affects it.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, we'll talk again for sure. For sure. Because I'm just fascinated.
Oh, I'm
completely
so
fascinated.
Okay, I'm going to send you everything now. And with the course, you get access to the book as well if you want to learn more, because the book is more like, when I wrote the book, the idea was for it to be basically a guide on the science behind it, whereas the course is very pragmatic. The course is like, you do this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, these are the exercises.
Right.
And the book is for nerding out on this plane of motion and this range, and you do ranges of motion and you do progressive overload. And so just
it's more the theory, and then the course is the practice and giving you the steps, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God, it sounds like it's very well done too. I'm a course creator too, and man, it is a hard thing to put a course together. So
it's
bravo.
Fun,
Good job.
Right? Isn't the most fun? I love it. But that's my area. I love creating stuff that I can just give to. I love building courses. That's my favorite part. I mean,
I give that to you. I don't love building a course. I really love teaching in person, but to be able to teach at scale, you have to have a course, and then you try to do supplement with your with your traveling and stuff. But I'm excited to meet you, Belle. This is great.
I'm excited to meet. Where are you based?
Well, I'm in San Antonio now. I was in LA for 24 years, but I just moved 6 months ago. So I'm in Texas, but doing all the things over here. But I'm assuming you're not trying to get a PhD in this. You're working with PhD.
I'm working with PhD people. I'm working with people who are way smarter than me to do things right.
Well, because you're an entrepreneur, there's not really time for both, right?
No.
Okay.
But it's very exciting what's coming up, because I just love science. And so I'm just really excited for it.
My listeners, if you would honor me with a 5-star rating and review, I would appreciate it forever. It is the hardest thing about being a podcaster is to get your podcast out to the people who want to listen. So the best way to do that is to have a good star rating and just ride that algorithm. So I really appreciate if you guys would just open the Apple app and leave me a review. It makes such a difference. I appreciate you. I also have Greener Grass with Digitant Podcasts with my friend Kelly McVeigh. If you want to hear my voice twice a week, it's there for you. It's light, it's heartfelt, and we bring on some really amazing guests. All right, my friends, over and out. This is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is The Expecting Aerialist.